the sweep of their power grab around anti-Semitism in just the past 10 days. They stripped $400 million in funding from Columbia and placed its Middle Eastern Studies Department in receivership while completely ignoring laws requiring notification, investigation, and those guarding academic freedom. They sent letters to 60 other universities threatening similar crackdowns if they do not comply with vague demands to effectively combat anti-Semitism. They're deploying AI to crawl through social media accounts in order to find additional targets for deportation based on wrongthink on Israel. Perhaps as a result of this effort, another Columbia student on a student visa was forced to flee the country. Her greatest involvement in pro-Palestine protests was liking and resharing some posts and signing on to at least one open letter calling for Palestinian liberation. She described herself as, quote, just a rando, not anywhere close to a protest leader. 4, the Department of Justice announced that the government is investigating whether to charge American students who participated in pro-Palestine protests as terrorists. Academic freedom destroyed, due process jettisoned, free speech crushed, power consolidated. All under the guise of fighting the alleged bigotry of people who were disgusted to see our government complicit in mass slaughter of civilians. Even many die-hard Zionists are sounding the alarm. Eli Lake, who is nothing if not committed to hatred of pro-Palestine protesters, tweeted this, quote, if Mahmoud Khalil is charged and convicted of an actual crime, he should be deported. If his crime is just the expression of support for a terrorist organization, then this pageant is grotesque. And yes, I realize that their harassment of Jews, destruction of property, etc. is not protected speech. But the legal argument thus far amounts to saying permanent legal residents can't say anything that the Secretary of State believes undermines U.S. foreign policy. That is a horrendous violation of free speech. And as much as I despise campus solidarity with baby stranglers, I love American values more. Bill Maher, to my somewhat surprise, also weighed in on behalf of Khalil, viewing the assault on him as an attack on free speech.
Then there's this issue of Mahmoud Khalil. He is one of the protesters, the Palestinian protesters, and I don't agree with his point of view. But you know what? If you're an honest person, you have to defend him if you believe in free speech, because that's what free speech means. I say it all the time when it's on the other foot, and I can't change because it's now this guy. It's defending the dirtbags you hate. So this guy, now, here's what FIRE, and I love this organization, that's the Foundation for Individual Rights and Expression, and they go after the left a lot, mostly. But they're honest. They said, if the government has got anything other than just somebody who is saying things they don't like, talking about this guy, they need to show it now, because otherwise the harm to First Amendment freedoms will be serious. And I think that's true. I don't think they have anything on this guy other than he's saying things that I can't believe kids believe now. I did not see this coming, this bizarre alliance of jihadism and wokeism. You know, intifada is the only solution. Really? Intifada is the only solution? That's where this guy is. I think it's horrible. He hates this country. He hates Western civilization. And I defend to his death the right to say it.
Protecting speech you don't like is, of course, the whole point of the First Amendment. What's more, it doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure out that Jews are not safe when disfavored groups start getting singled out, criminalized, rounded up by the federal government. Neither, for that matter, is anyone else. Today it's them, tomorrow it could be you. Once a president claims the power to punish any speech that they don't like, there are no limits to what that can ultimately mean. Today, it could be anti-Semitism. Tomorrow, it could be anti-racism. Today, it could be DEI wrongthink. Tomorrow, it could be climate denial. Today, it could be affiliating with Democrats. Tomorrow, it could be affiliating with Republicans. The next step in consciousness, though, is to realize that the mass campaign by people like Maher and Lake to demonize those with legitimate criticisms of Israel as violent, hateful, and pro-Hamas is exactly the ideological framework that made the current crackdown possible and easy. In Eli's tweet, he even says that Khalil expressed support for terrorists, which appears to not be true at all. But once the pro-Palestine protests were portrayed by the liberal Biden administration as being effectively Hamas, it did not take a large leap to criminalize anyone who was affiliated with them, to throw visa holders and permanent residents out of the country altogether for participating or even for liking the wrong tweet. Even those like Khalil, who appear to have been completely law-abiding. In fairness, though, I think if it wasn't the anti-Semitism ruse, it would probably just be something else. After all, it's not like this is the only way Trump is consolidating power and crushing dissent. The anti-Semitism ploy is one branch of Trump's broader authoritarian push. He certainly doesn't care about actual anti-Semitism. He regularly himself uses anti-Semitic tropes by tying all Jews to the actions of Israel as one example. His co-president, Elon, spent Inauguration Day giving 2 Nazi salutes and got in trouble before that for saying that an anti-Semitic conspiracy theory was, quote, the actual truth. Instead, play-acting concern for anti-Semitism, it's just the most convenient excuse lying around to hobble his enemies, crush dissent, undercut what he sees as a rival power base in the university system to stoke fear and garner compliance. Now, Trump promised in his campaign he would pursue retribution, that he would terminate the Constitution, that he would act as a dictator. And judging from his actions, one way or another, he intends to make good on that pledge. Whether you're a media outlet that he deems illegal, a law firm with the temerity to represent one of his political opponents, or a government agency with an unacceptable number of liberal staffers, he wants you afraid, alone, and cowering. Crushed. He will use the power of the state and his crew of loyalist goons to achieve that intended result. If crying anti-Semitism helps in his campaign, he is happy to weaponize it. And it seems like he's just getting started. The move to invoke the Alien Enemies Act of 1798, claiming wartime powers not used since Japanese internment, suggests that this dark turn is really just beginning. Next, we're going to see whether this all fuels public backlash that could stem some of the worst abuses, whether the courts can act to sufficiently forestall the authoritarian slide, whether the liberal institutions are remotely up to fighting an organized, lawless, illiberal power grab. So far, though, the indications are not all that promising. Looks like when ICE grabbed Mahmoud, they didn't realize he was a green card holder and likely didn't realize how unimpeachably upstanding he would turn out to actually be. Sort of living embodiment of the American cultural melting pot good neighbor ideal. But whether it was intentional or not, making an example out of Mahmoud, ultimately it does serve their interests. If they can get away with it, then really no one else can feel safe. No matter how many Shabbats they attended, how many times they uplifted their Jewish friends, how courageously they protected them from hateful conduct, how academically accomplished and impressively credentialed, no matter how pregnant or how American their wife happens to be. Everyone, citizen and non, will get the message that nothing can protect them if the Trump regime decides they are to be punished. And that is precisely the point. Now the only question that remains is, will they get away with it? And it really is wild once you dig into who this guy actually is, how he is the complete reverse.
Hey guys, if you want to see what I had to say to Crystal's monologue, not just this one, all of them, going back to the very beginning, become a premium subscriber today, breakingpoints.com.